two of Gaston County's oldest cold cases, from Bessemer City in 1966.
If we're able to clear this, it'll be something that we'll be able to go to the family and say, this is who killed your grandfather or your great-grandfather, and that's pretty much it.
To Belmont in 1974.
And it's just that frustration of feeling like you're hitting a brick wall.
We ask, who killed Livingston Bumgardner and Grace Prince? The year, 1966. NASA's Lunar Orbiter 1 becomes the first U.S. spacecraft to orbit the moon. Batman and Star Trek make their debut on family television across the country. And then Hollywood actor Ronald Reagan is elected governor of California. Here in Gaston County, it's December 12th. Gaston County's rural police have been called to a small home in Bessemer City. When they arrive, they find the body of 62-year-old Livingston Johnston Bumgardner lying on the floor.
Livingston Bumgardner was found in a room in his house by, I would say, two customers. I guess they called them bootlegger houses in the 60s. We would call it a shot house now, where you go and you buy shots of liquor or beer rather than going to the store and buying it legally.
Sergeant Josh Hamlin was the lead detective on the Bumgardner case until his retirement at the end of 2023. According to Hamlin, the two men had stopped by Bumgardner's that morning, and when he didn't answer the door, they walked into the house and found him on the floor.
They thought at first he was unconscious or just passed out because he drank heavily. Then they noticed that he had been shot.
Bumgardner had suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Detectives determined that it was a .25 caliber handgun. They found a round embedded in a closet door and the shell casing.
It was probably a robbery gone wrong. He didn't suffer, he wasn't beaten to death. It wasn't someone that was angry. He was shot one time and that was it. And I would say they probably either didn't pay for the alcohol that they bought and an argument ensued, or they came specifically to rob him.
Bumgardner's younger brother, Howard, was asleep in another room at the time of the shooting. Howard had been drinking heavily the night before and had passed out.
Howard was not able to be interviewed for 6 days. It was December 18th before they were actually able to interview Howard, where he'd sobered up enough to where he could function.
Howard couldn't provide any information to detectives, but according to the case files, Bumgardner had made more than a few enemies.
They conducted a neighborhood canvass. They were given names of past customers and people that he had a beef with, but nothing substantial at all. And then going through the file, the only follow-up that I found after 1966 originally is in 1975, where a detective interviewed a couple of people, and then that was it. Nothing else happened.
That detective in 1975 recorded interviewing a resident. That person said during the interview they were at a party on Christmas Eve of that year, and an alleged witness identified Bumgardner's killer.
They pointed at somebody and said, that's the man that killed Bummy, which was Bumgardner's nickname. Well, nobody ever interviewed that guy that said that, and so in researching the case, I think I found this person, but I won't know till I actually go and talk to him and ask him if this is him. Everyone else is dead.
If the witness is still alive, he would be approximately 80 years old, and Hamlin says he doesn't know what his mental shape would be if he interviews him.
If we're able to clear this, it'll be something that we'll be able to go to the family and say, this is who killed your grandfather or your great-grandfather, and that's pretty much it. We'll give the family some closure.
Amazingly, Bumgardner had a connection to another infamous murder in Gaston County, that of Ella Mae Wiggins during the Luray Mill Strike of 1929. Former Charlotte Observer journalist Joe DePriest tracked down Livingston's brother Stanley in 1993 to learn more about this incredible connection.
Livingston barely missed getting shot that day.
As Stanley Bumgardner relayed the story to DePriest, Livingston was riding in a truck with LMA Wiggins on September 14, 1929, on the way to a union rally for striking textile workers. On the way, they were ambushed, and Wiggins was killed. Despite eyewitnesses, including Livingston, a jury in 1930 failed to convict any of the 5 men charged with her killing.
After the fact, after she was killed, she became a martyr to the Union cause.
Right.
Because she was an activist and spoke out for workers' rights and women's rights and the rights of black workers. Her monument is the largest one in the cemetery over there, I think.
Over his more than 2 decades covering Gaston County, DePriest said he's talked to numerous friends and family members of murder victims and missing persons.
I've done a zillion cold cases, and they sort of haunt you. They stay with you, you know.
It's January 10th, 1974. Gaston County Rural Police arrive at a house on River Road in an area known as Browntown in Belmont. Inside, they find the body of 39-year-old Grace Edith Prince. Captain Billy Downey with the Criminal Investigations Division says Prince was originally from Tennessee and had moved to Gaston County to get away from her estranged husband.
After she moved here, sometime later, the husband moved here. James Prince is his name. He moved down a few months later. Grace established herself in the neighborhood. In her livelihood, she was able to get a job at a local mill. She rode to work with a neighbor, or she used a taxi cab to get to work.
The taxi cab picked up Prince every day and took her to Far Yarns where she worked.
The taxi cab driver said that he would go pick her up every morning, a certain time. He'd blow the horn. She would come out like clockwork. And I think it was like 2 days went by. And on that second or third day, I don't know if it was him and a neighbor, they went and found the door unsecured and found her deceased inside.
Prince was found in the bedroom, lying face up on the bed. She had been strangled to death. There was no sign anyone had broken into the home, nor was there any sign of a struggle.
The house was not ransacked. There was, like you said, valuable still there. Nothing that would be consistent with a robbery or a home invasion like what we would call it now. The door wasn't kicked in, there wasn't a window knocked out where they could reach in and unlock the door from the inside. It was, in my opinion, somebody she knew, somebody that she was comfortable enough to let in her house.
The original detectives also believed it was someone who knew Prince, and they initially spoke to her estranged husband, James, who lived only a few miles up Highway 74 in Charlotte.
He had a new girlfriend who was, I think, about 20 years his senior, or 20 years younger than him. The new girlfriend referred to Grace as a mother figure, so she knew her. There was some interaction there.
Neighbors and other people the detectives interviewed said that Prince didn't like her husband and tried to keep contact with him to a minimum. When detectives interviewed James Prince, he told them that Grace had called him because she needed him to fix something in the house.
One thing led to another. They spent time together that night. He fixed the item that needed to be fixed in the house, and he says he leaves. And then Mr. Prince is never interviewed again. He kind of just disappears off into the sunset as far as the case.
According to detectives, the neighbors disagreed with James Prince's version of the story, saying that he was at Grace's home later than he had said. Before James Prince disappeared from police's radar, he was arrested for the killing of another man. Just months after Grace was killed, James was involved in a fight with another man, Vernon Queen. According to witnesses, Queen attacked Prince with a knife, slashing him numerous times before Prince killed him with a blast from a shotgun. Superior Court Judge Ralph Phillips dismissed charges against Prince just a month later, saying he acted in self-defense. As the Gaston Unsolved team learned during its investigation, that wasn't James Prince's first run-in with the authorities. In May 1963, he was charged with forgery and extradited from West Virginia to South Carolina. He pled guilty to 2 counts of forgery in June and was sentenced to 2 years for both counts, which were suspended in lieu of 5 years of probation. Over the years, Gaston County detectives have reviewed the Prince case, looking for new leads, but have had little success. In 2012, detectives located James Prince living in another state, but due to the lack of funding, detectives were unable to travel there to interview him.
So again, we have a suspect that probably needs to be re-interviewed. We're not able to get to the suspect. We're not able to interview him. And since then, we've looked into this case again. This is one of the cases I've looked at and reviewed, found where Mr. Prince has since passed away. So now we've got a dead victim. The suspect, or person of interest, for lack of a better term, has passed away. The neighbors who gave us information about putting him there have passed away. The girlfriend, it appears that she, even though she was like 20 years younger, he was born in 1930, so she was born somewhere in the late 40s, early 50s. It looks like she's passed away. So pretty much everybody in this case, they're gone. They've all passed away.
While investigating this case, detectives learned that Grace Prince had a daughter. Unfortunately, she too has passed away, dying in 2005. In researching this story, the Gaston Unsolved team found that Grace Prince had numerous brothers and sisters, all of whom have also died. With so many family members and key suspects in the case all gone, it's now up to the Gaston County Police Department to keep this case alive.
In my opinion, I think we know who did this case, who committed this homicide. It's probably something that we won't be able to prove because everybody's passed away.
Next time on Gaston Unsolved. A well-liked local grocer slashed to death in his own store.
What's really interesting is 3 young teenage boys walked to the convenience store to get something to drink. And even one of the boys was completely crying and upset just because they all knew him.
A dying message to the men who found him. But more than 5 decades later, police still hunt for the person who killed Albert Farrar Jr.